GTA home prices went up 28% over the last year as supply remains hampered. That's the headline. The host of Simply Real Estate, Sundays at noon on News Talk 1010, Todd C. Slater, joins me. Todd, good morning.
Good morning, Jerry.
Is this same old, same old?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, we're going to rinse, repeat these for the next few months where we're going to see the sales continue to go up in value. Not as much inventory. There is that calming effect. People are saying, well, we're seeing some more houses getting listed, but, we're coming into a spring market, and this is where we typically see, more sales, bigger prices. Everybody gets excited because the weather's changing. So I think before we see anything kind of, stabilize, I think we've still got a few months to run this out.
All right, but we talk about this and we talk about supply, and I think we've always talked about it, Todd, in terms of we need to build. But is part of the supply issue that people just aren't putting their houses up for sale? The existing homes aren't for sale.
Well, that's a great point. It's true. We don't have people, up and leaving. And look, there's been a lot of upheavals, as you and I both know, in the marketplace over the last few years. A lot of changes. COVID made people stay home longer. There's a lot of things that are happening in the employment industry. So not everybody's willing to sell their property, or for that matter, a lot of people got delayed from retirement. And so there are these situations where we'd hope that we'd get more inventory coming to the market. But even if we did, even if we started to max out the number of listings, we still don't have enough inventory. It's just a population growth that we've got to deal with. And again, with new immigration, the GTA is the hottest place in Canada to move to. So if we're gonna have 450,000 people come into Canada this year, we're going to see at least half of them coming to the GTA.
But why is it that despite all the anguish and the hand-wringing and nobody can afford it and yada, 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 every house that goes up for sale sells? Why is that?
I know. Listen, if you and I could figure that out, Jerry, we would be doing much better than sitting on the radio. But truth be told, look, it is what it is. There are, a great deal of buyers that are willing to suck it up, get into the marketplace, and buy at this price. There's always going to be the people the naysayers that are saying that, the market's too expensive. And a year from now, they're going to kick themselves for not buying this year. And this has been the trend. For those of you out there that are thinking that there's this massive bubble that's going to burst, it's not going to happen. It's not there. There's not an expert in the world that's going to sit there and say the market's going to collapse, because right now there just isn't enough inventory, and there's not enough houses.
Okay, but here's what I would worry about, and maybe I'm wrong, I probably am, but what I would worry about is if I get out there and I stretch myself like a rubber band that's about to break, way more of my income is in the mortgage as opposed to wherever else I might spend money, because I think, well, over time I'll earn more money and the house will be worth more money and it's all going to smooth out and it's all going to be great. And then somebody goes to war and everything changes and the insurance or the mortgage rates change. People could really be in trouble.
And that's a very good point, Jerry. I think a lot of people need to sit back before they jump into this market. They have to, this is one of the reasons why they put the stress test in 2018, because they knew that people were taking on more debt than they should. And we have to anticipate that rates will go up. So before everybody's jumping into the fray, they've got to take a hard look at it and say, what if? Life happens. And obviously we're dealing with it around the world right now. And people have to be aware. Look, you could have job loss. You could have, Bank of Canada and went up yesterday, quarter point. A lot of people are saying, oh my goodness, it's gone up a quarter point. It has to. Okay, we got to control inflation. We're going to see the rates continue to go up a little bit more. But ultimately, you have to sit there, and it's really hard. Buyers really struggle because, just as you said, we all try to rationalize why we can afford this in the future. There should be a group of people that are going to rent. It just makes more sense for them in the future.
All right, but how high can it go?
Well, this is the thing. We still don't compare. If you take a look at New York City, we are still completely undervalued per square foot if you take a look at some of these, bigger cities around the world. So again, a lot of people would consider Toronto still a decent deal. If you go into New York, you can easily be paying anywhere from $2,000 to $3,000 a square foot. And so when we take a look at today, if we take a look at Toronto new construction, up around $1,500 a square foot, $1,200 for some of the, not monopoly pieced boardwalk sites, or for that matter, if we take a look at some of the resale stuff, you're really floating around $800 to $1,000 a square foot.
Yeah, okay. But, I mean, if I'd have asked you a couple of years ago, what's the average house going to cost in March of 2022, do you think you would have said 1.3 million?
I don't know if I would have given you that exact number, but I knew that it would be more. And the problem is just because, again, you and I argue about this all the time, with the listeners, is it's inventory. It's not agents. It's not the government. It's not anybody. It's the government's problem because they're not giving us the inventory. But the truth is the values will continue to go up as long as the demand is there. So if everybody would agree just to stop buying, guess what's going to happen to the prices? They're going to go down. And that's where we sit today. There's just more buyers than sellers.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's exactly right. That's sort of my point when I say every time a house goes up for sale, it sells, and there's all kinds of bidding wars and everything. And every once in a while, it does happen in markets that people just kind of cross their arms and say, I'm not paying that, and you get a crash. And I know you said that that's not going to happen, but economic history teaches us it's not if, it's when.
Well, I'm glad you brought it up because, again, if we look historically, I would agree with that, but we are not in the same marketplace that we've ever been before. And why I say that is there's a certain saturation point that we've hit. There's a certain limitation. We have more conservation that we have to account for. We've got this big wet thing just south of us here, so we can't develop on it. So when we turn around and we say, why can't our market crash, or why would our market crash? Well, if we stopped immigration, if we turned around and put interest rates, to 6 or 8%, would we have a cooling of the market? Would we have a market adjustment, maybe 20, 30%? It's possible. But today, as it sits, even with interest rates going up, and there's going to be a benchmark that the Bank of Canada will set, they will keep an eye on the economy, because if they push too quick, too fast, too much, they know that it's going to stall out the economy. So there's going to be a balancing act, and they put this into place years ago. And when we take a look at inventory, we still aren't going to ever catch up. We've got too much process in place here with the government, municipalities, red tape. We just can't build it. And this is the thing. So where do you get a crash market? Crash markets back in 1988 when the market crashed, we had way too much inventory. We had too high interest rates. There were the speculators. They threw it in, but there was not enough buyers to soak up the inventory. We just don't have the inventory.
All right. Now, somebody wrote in here taking exception to your example. Said, we're not New York. Come on.
Look, you know what? What's wrong with saying New York City? I mean, it's one of the most popular, cities in the world.
They're saying it's not a good comparison.
Well, it should be a good comparison because, Canada, with Toronto being one of the top 7 cities in the world, we have to equate the fact that we need to attract, certain employers. We need to attract people for tourism. I mean, Toronto is one of the top cities in the world. We have to accept the fact that if that's the case, people are going to pay more to be here.
Politicians love running around saying Toronto is a world-class city, and then when it acts like a world-class city, people don't like it.
Well, exactly, and this is the thing. I hate to use the word suck and blow, but this is what happens with people. They turn around, they want one and not the other. But again, buyers want to buy the cheapest, sellers want to sell for the most. If you become a seller in the future, let's say you do buy, what are you going to do in the future when you go to sell? Are you going to give it away? Are you going to sell it back for the same price you bought it for? No, you're going to want to have it increase in value. That was one of your intentions when you bought in the first place. So this is what people have to adjust to. It is reality.
I wonder if there will be eventually a lessening of pressure because people will just decide, well, I'm moving out. I mean, maybe I could just work for my computer somewhere else in the country, or I'll go to Florida and get a house for $300,000.
Yeah, and the outer markets are are becoming stronger. We're seeing price increases, but still affordability. An hour out of Toronto. These are the kind of things it will evolve, and eventually there'll be a natural balance that'll come into place.
All right, Todd is back with you Sunday at noon on Simply Real Estate. Todd C. Slater, good to have you along. Thanks very much.
Thanks so much, Jerry.